All right. Good mic check, friends. Are you ready?
Yep.
Is this taboo?
You know what this is.
Did you ever? What color are your underwear?
You're crass and inappropriate. It's your trippy hippie Alicia jumping on the mic from good old Utah.
Danielle, I'm starting to feel this shit.
That gets me every time.
I know.
To hard talks.
Seduction.
Seduction.
Where the talks are really hard.
I thought this was flaccid talks. Sometimes.
This shit sounds
Sometimes.
Ring, ring. This is Hard Talks. Hard Talks. Hard Talks.
Hard talks?
You're listening I think to so. Hard Talks with a blonde and a hippie.
Brought you by Hard Talk Production.
Happy day to you, my beautiful Hard Talks fam. It's your trippy hippie Alicia jumping on the mic from, where's my bell? Good old Utah. I'm joined this evening with my favorite blonde, your favorite blonde.
Everyone's favorite blonde. Sarah.
Wow, that was a long pause. And we are also joined by a very special guest. We're very excited. Venus Castleberg, author, energy worker, right? Healer.
Yeah.
I mean, what would you give yourself if you had an official title? Energy worker.
Yeah, actually,
That's hard,
It
huh?
is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm also a facilitator and a coach. So, you know, it's
She's
like
a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn a little bit about that. You published this book how long ago?
It was published back in August.
Yes, and it's called Here to Forever, Finally Free to Be Me. And let me tell you, you guys, I finished reading this, and a lot of relatable moments for me. Kind of riveting. There were a couple times where I had some goosebumps, and I was like, man, I'm not alone in that. So, very good writer. I'm very happy to have you here, and I just wanted to, ask you a couple questions about your journey and how you came to this point in your life where you were able to share your story, because you've been through a lot.
Yeah.
And that's an understatement, I know. But I think what my favorite part about this book is you're not focusing on your traumas. Even from the beginning, even when you were writing from the perspective of your childhood, it's just kind of like something that happened and you moved on. And obviously later in life, you had to face those demons. But I mean, you never carried those is what it felt like. It never, I feel like you were just always a wild spirit, a free spirit. And I think Sarah and I both can relate to that in life, to say the least. But if you would, can you just give me like a brief summary for the people of your story, your childhood, and your moves, and your mother, your free-spirited mother, who sounds just like my mother.
Well, I don't know if it's as brief as it seems, but let's. I think for me, I wrote the book, and it was just really about sharing that you don't have to be dictated by your past.
Right.
Like, no matter what you go through, it doesn't make you who you want to become or who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a choice.
And it doesn't define you either.
Right.
I think, because I have this whole thing highlighted here, there was a portion in here where you said that exactly. You know what I mean? Like, you finally just had to let go of, because it weighs you down.
Yeah.
It holds you back. And I think your search for love and how you finally came to the realization where you needed to love yourself like nobody else ever has. That was your path to happiness. I think it's inspiring. So I had a couple of questions about it. How have you, how do I want to phrase this? How do you let go of things and call back your power when you feel like you've lost it?
Wow, that's a really good question. So I think the first thing is realizing that it's just a chapter in your own story, right? Everything that you've gone through. I mean, and I say this kind of blanket because I'm not necessarily religious, but I would say that the universe is always conspiring for you, never against you, right? So everything that you go through is working out in your favor.
Yeah.
Even if you can't see how in the moment. Because there are times that you're like, wow, this really sucks. And it's hard when you're going through that. But when you get to the other side, you can look back and go, wow, I'm really glad I'm not still with that guy.
Yeah.
Or I'm really glad that I didn't stick with that job.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
Well, I said that to Corey just the other day. I was like, I think, because I was a contractor for the Air Force, and my contract was absorbed without any notice. And at first it was like, oh my God, the world is ending. What am I going to do? How am I going to make ends meet? You know? And I even said to her just yesterday, I was like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. Not only for my mental health, but I get to be more present with my son and focus on the things that really matter to me. And so I think you even say that too, you know, the tunnel seems never ending, the one that you're in, but it is just another hurdle, and it molds us into the people that we are. And I think that's the biggest message I've gotten out of your book, is just keep on going. Are there times in your past where you didn't feel like there was a light at the end of your tunnel?
yes.
Because it was a long road, I know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm probably old enough to be your mother's, so, you know. So I've had a couple more years. Yeah, I mean, really dark times. I was depressed at one point. I don't know that I was ever really suicidal per se, but I definitely didn't want to be here.
Right.
I was like, what's the point, you know? Yeah, and you're always like, when you're in that moment, you're thinking, there is no relief.
Yeah.
There is no light. And it's always on the other side that you're like, oh, okay, I can see why I went through that and what I learned and what I gained. But they can be hard, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know?
You mentioned a portion where you were like, in a split second, I just, something clicked differently. And I came to this kind of like epiphany moment where everything kind of made sense. I feel like a lot of people's frustration in healing or getting over whatever they're getting over, if that makes sense, it stems from the frustration and feel like they're not moving forward. You know what I mean? But I totally had that aha moment as well, where I was like, I've had those moments of realization where it's like, snap, everything suddenly makes sense. And all the bullshit I've gone through has led up to this moment. I know you've moved around a lot. You were born in Alaska, right? And then Pennsylvania, Colorado. You traveled through Africa, Scotland, England.
Great
right?
memory.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes. So I know in that time you were afraid to be alone kind of for the first time in your life, but that was a big ringer for me because I've been divorced for 3 years now, and some days are lonelier than others where I'm like, man, where's that person of mine? You know, I just want him to come around.
He's probably in Scotland waiting for you.
Oh, that would be lovely. We should go.
I mean, hey, I'm down for it. Let's go, you know?
Hey, shout out my future Scottish man. Wait for me. But I feel like I had to appreciate the moments where I am single and alone, because those are my biggest times of growth and accomplishing things. Like the passages in your book where you were alone and didn't talk to anyone, even in English, for like a month at a time. I was like, man, that could be kind of scary, but also I'm like, how rad would that be?
Yep.
Where in Africa I remember it was like an island, right?
Well, I was in Kenya and Tanzania first, and then I went to Zanzibar Island. Yeah.
Okay. And you said that the locals were very nice and accepting you. The children would bring you seashells.
Yeah.
Was there any English speaking there?
No.
Or it was all just...
Yeah. I mean, the hotel, I stayed in a cabana on the water. But so the check-in people, spoke English.
Other than that, you're kind of on your own, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Was there ever a moment where you got lost or anything?
Well, kind of. I borrowed a bike because they said they had bikes, and I decided to bike and I do this a lot. And if you guys read my book, I'm a little extreme. I tend to do things to the extreme. So
if you're gonna do, you might as well.
Right. So I decided to bike to the other side of the island.
Yes.
And go to this other place to have lunch. And on my way back, I had biked a while. On my way back, the tires were going flat.
Oh no.
And nobody spoke English.
You're pointing to the tires.
You're like,
Yep.
Help, please.
And then I stopped by a coconut stand, and the guy came out with a machete and
oh my
a
gosh.
coconut, and he saw my tire, and he put the machete and coconut down, and then he went and got a pump, and he pumped up my tire.
That's awesome. He's like, can I help you? And you're like, oh, does it need to make tire? Put the machete down.
So I was kind of lost, but
Yeah.
yeah. And then it was still leaking air, but I managed to make it back to the hotel.
That's crazy.
Okay. But he did at the end, he cut off the end of the coconut and gave it to me to drink because I didn't have any water.
Well, that's good.
That's awesome.
That's
It's
a good use
go.
for a machete.
Right.
I would have been like, oh crap.
I thought I'd cut my arm off. I mean, the way they cut those coconuts with machetes, they're just like, pfft.
Yeah.
I literally
It's like
probably would have been
nothing.
like, universe, you led me here.
They're
Is
like-
this what it was for?
You're like, I'm going to die by machete. I'm here for it.
My goodness. But I think it's in those moments of a little bit of struggle where, I mean, we only know what we know. We learn from experience, right? So would you say that time in your life, traveling alone, was one of the best times of your life?
I definitely found my own inner strength. Yeah. Being a white single woman traveling around Africa was definitely.
Oh, yeah.
It's very-
there were moments where it was like, yeah. And lots of people were like, you shouldn't be doing that.
Really?
Lots of people. Yeah. Lots of people just worried about me or whatever. And I'm just like, I got this.
I think you and I are the same, though. Like, if someone says don't, we just want to do it that much more. Or,
You're like, oh, don't do it?
yeah, we just
don't
wanna-
do it? Okay.
we just want to push
Challenge
back
accepted.
harder. Yeah.
I'm over here like, okay, I'll just stay in my room then.
Yeah.
Lock the door, throw the key away, bye.
But let's go back a little bit. So your childhood in Alaska, I know that your father who adopted you, he wasn't your biological father, but you were very close to him. You described him as your first love. And I think about this a lot because even my therapist has said this before. Because God knows I need one. But she was like, psychologically we're somewhat like attracted to the person that raises us. We look for those qualities or quirks in the man that we eventually
Hence
try
where
to be
the
with.
saying is you married your father comes from.
Right.
Yes, and my father, God love him, can be a bit unstable, so it makes sense as to why I attract unstable, emotionally inept people. But do you think that him not being in your life 100% of the time, made you seek that desire for love at an earlier age?
Possibly. I mean, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but definitely, even when he was around, I was already looking. Like, there was already, this, because of the Disney movies and all the fairy tales.
Prince Charming.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and I know you guys probably don't know who this is, but Chicago was my favorite.
I know
band.
Chicago.
I know about
She doesn't
it.
know Chicago.
I know
She's
about
probably
it.
thinking of the city or the play.
I've never been to Chicago, but I know about Chicago.
Chicago, the band, right?
Band,
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a bunch of love songs and ballads, and I would write the
Your
lyrics.
homework
on,
later,
yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah.
So much homework. You didn't even leave the book for me.
In the park. Yes, I know. Anyways, so
So I was already thinking that I was supposed to be trying to find the one. But yeah, when my dad died at 18, definitely was like, okay, I think I even married the first guy that asked right after he died because I thought, well, I need to get married so I can feel
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
You know?
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I had been boy crazy for as long as I could remember. I think one of my favorite passages in your book from, I believe you were 6, you would sneak in and watch your mom's roommates have sex. And it was like something just very interesting about it. It was like, curious gets a cat, right? But I was always that way too. I don't know why. You know, I've tried to pinpoint that with my therapist and be like, why have I always sought out male attention from a very young age? You know, I had great parents. I mean, not a lot of one-on-one time, lots of yelling, but I don't know. Like, I remember getting caught at 5 years old kissing the neighbor boy, and it was innocent, just like your first boyfriend, but you'd hold hands and tell everyone that you were boyfriend and girlfriend, and, you know, that seems innocent enough, but I mean,
Right.
even at a young age, it's kind of like, it makes you think a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like, what do you think that stems from? I know it's a personal experience for everybody, of course, but I can't wrap my mind around it for me, myself, so...
Well, first of all, I want to encourage, what if it wasn't wrong?
Yes.
We're taught so, like, that you're young, if your sexualness or your curiosity at a young age is wrong, and it's not. It's just curiosity. You're just a kid, you know?
I like that.
Yeah.
It isn't wrong. Sexuality isn't wrong, and I think that's a great point that you make at the end of your book. After you found yourself, you felt free to finally have fun and, you know, have fun with your sexuality. It shouldn't be deemed as, you're right, totally.
And then as far as, we'll take a hard talk, so I probably would say that you might come in with some of that from another lifetime.
That would make sense.
Because we've been and done all of it in multiple lifetimes. And so we come into this lifetime, we're in little bodies, but we still have the same curiosity or that came in from a previous lifetime, you know, the same knowledge.
Yeah.
So somehow in your awareness, you already knew, well, sexualness would be fun and, you know.
Yeah.
I think I was a plant.
You were a
I
plant.
thought I was a plant.
You were playing.
A cactus.
Well, I mean, it is, but like in the moment, I'm like, we have to do that.
She's a prickly.
Like,
But you also
why are you touching
have
me?
your own you have your own reservations for your own reasons.
Yes.
Similar to yours,
Sure.
your past traumas as a child. And I mean, I think that that's hard for a lot of people to get over. So, I mean, was there ever a time where, I don't know how to phrase what I'm wanting to. Was there ever a time in your experience after your sexual assault, or you were also date raped,
Yep.
right? Yes. Very, very sorry about that. But I mean, is there ever a time that came up in your relationships where you had to just kind of be like, I need to let this go?
Well, interestingly enough, if I look at a picture of me before it happened, I was 12, and I had blonde hair, and I wore like purple and whites and like all these colors, right? And then in my 13, I wore black. My hair had actually turned black. I have no idea how my hair turned black. Like, I
Wow.
literally look like 2 different kids
Wow.
from this year. So I definitely know it impacted me because I went into this a little bit more reclusive energy, like, you know, don't touch me, don't, you know, that sort of thing. It didn't last very long. I got more curious again. So
Well, right, but I mean, I think that's huge because you were just able to some would say like compartmentalize it, lock it away, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing for everything either because, I mean, you were able to move forward. Did your mom ever find out about that?
I told her years later. Yeah, I just definitely didn't know at that time.
Yeah.
And it is in the book, but I'll say it here because I think it might be beneficial. When I became a camp counselor when I was 18 years old, I ended up having a cabin full of girls that had all been sexually abused and assaulted. And I knew instantly that if I hadn't had that experience or those experiences, I wouldn't have been able to relate to them. I would not have been able to help them heal.
Yeah.
And they finally could tell somebody.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That it was safe and I wasn't going to go tell their parents or talk to anybody. So that was one of those hindsight things I was talking about, like looking back going, okay, now I know why that happened because I was able to be there for these girls.
Yeah.
And
I
never had that reclusive thing again after that because I was like, oh, okay.
I think that's what was crazy, though, is you mentioned that most of them had experienced sexual trauma in their short life. Yeah, 10 out of 11.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they were all around the age of 10, 11, 12 years old. I mean, they were all young girls.
Just breaks my mama heart.
Especially having a girl.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I lock you in a box? Like,
They still have chastity belts, you know.
shit, I'm getting her one. You'll be fine. Like a chastity diaper.
That was a big thing I could relate to as well, though. So I grew up in not a religious home, but a very spiritual home. My mom said at a very young age, you know, I would talk about God and wanting to go back and see God. And I used to carry this picture of my great-grandma Lena around everywhere, but I'd never met her. She died a month before I was born. And they said that I used to just, like, sit on the couch and kiss her little picture and just, like, talk about her. And I lost that as I got older, but my mom always tried to give me as much information as she could in regards to all religions, not only the one that she grew up in, but, you know, being married to someone who wasn't in her faith. My dad's Catholic, like I said. There was a little bit of butting heads from time to time. So they put me through Catholic school, and then I went to a non-denominational Christian school. But when you went to religious camp, was it Bible camp?
Yeah.
I was reading those passages in the salon to Corey, and she used to be a very religious person as well. And just some of the things that you would say, some of the funny remarks you'd make were just like, oh my goodness, I lived this. I went to LDS girls camp, and that was all fun until the last night. And the Latter-day Saint religion is a little different. They have you bury your testimony around a fire at the on the last night. Sorry, I'm trying not to laugh, Sarah. But I didn't know how to do that, and so they're trying to teach me, and I was moved by the whole experience. I was like, okay, I think I could really commit to this. And
you'd be like the perfect person too. If you were to bear a testimony, you would get out there and be like, and everyone would be like silently clapping for you.
Yeah, they don't clap in.
I know, and like they're just like
church.
silently clapping your applaud because just the way you speak, though, you're just a very good
Thank you.
speaker.
But I mean,
But not right now.
Apparently, I didn't do a very good job at 12 because someone I thought was my friend came up to me on our way walking back to our cabin, and she's like, you know, it gets easier every year. And then we're talking about things that we'll get to do next weekend. We're going to hang out. But she's like, so are you going to go to church with me and my family on Sunday? I was like, oh, yeah, sure. And she's like, well, you need to bring your whole family. And I was like, you're funny. That's not going to happen.
Your dad, okay.
Yeah, okay. Even he wouldn't. He goes to mass once a year. It's on Easter. But
Well, he goes when he has to go.
yeah, yeah. But she's just like, well, if you don't get your whole family to go to church, you know, you're gonna go to hell. And at 12, I was like, what? I don't want to go to hell. You know, that scarred me. And then I became a little bit of a troublemaker and went to Christian private school after the fact. And I feel like that was a big deterrent for me in the religious aspect. I don't know. I read something the other day. It was like, I'm an omniist. So I don't believe in one set religion, but I feel like a lot of religions have truth behind them,
Like
right?
benefactors
If you
for
took them
you.
all, boiled down all of the bullshit off, then like, yeah, I mean, there's great things that absolutely I agree with. But the whole institution can be hard sometimes. And I know some younger kids, you know, struggle with that. You know, their parents want them to be involved and they want to please their parents, and it's kind of a tug and war type of ordeal for a lot of people. So when would you say that your turning point was? I know it's in the book, but for everyone listening, when did you kind of let go of that religious ideal, if that makes sense?
Great question. Yeah, so I was like you. I got saved at 6 at Bible camp, and then I went back to Bible camp at 11, and they said, you're going to go to hell if you weren't saved. And I thought, well, maybe I didn't do it or didn't do it right, so I had to do it again. So I got saved again.
I mean, you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah.
It's like being baptized at 8. You gotta be baptized.
And if you think about it, you don't really
But
even have...
why 8? I don't get why.
It's young enough, you don't have much of like a consciousness to make that decision. That's a lifelong commitment they want you to make.
In that too, it's like wash away your sins. Well, I don't have any sins at 8.
Right.
I mean, maybe I had a few bad thoughts here and there. Wash that away. Okay, well now I'm 16. And I went through
more bad thoughts.
a lot more bad thoughts. Maybe did a few things. Shouldn't I be washed away then? I'll be baptized once.
Gosh dang it. Oh,
See?
I don't
know.
I don't know. Well, I was never baptized because I don't know. My parents didn't want to force that on me. They wanted me to make that decision later on my own, but I never did. But I mean, it also brings up another good point that you make with sexuality and religion, where you're saying like this shouldn't be deemed as bad. Religion kind of scolds you in everything that you do. And there's a great line in here where you're like, you know, I don't believe that my God is going to judge me for wanting to go out and dance or enjoy my body or these experiences. And that's so freaking true. God doesn't judge. He's not supposed to.
I hope not.
No, we're
Sorry.
actually the ones judging. And God's just literally, we're all playing in a giant sandbox, and how you want to play in the sandbox is up to you. If you want to throw sand, throw sand. If you want
I want to throw sand all day. Alicia, at you.
I'll throw it back, but I'll win.
I know you will. You throw it once and I'm like fetal position. Sorry.
But
sorry.
yeah, it was a mentor of mine that actually said God does not judge because God does not condemn because God does not judge. And the minute he said that, I said, of course not. But it was a light bulb moment for me. It was like, oh, right. And I never had guilt from sex again because I was like, oh, yeah, he's not up there judging.
You were already saved twice.
Right, yeah.
So that helps too. You're like, I was saved twice already.
Double saved.
I'm good.
So, in your search for love, I know that you said that you married the first man who asked you to kind of escape previous heartbreak. That was me. I've said this so many times on the show. You know, I've lived many different chapters in my life. My oldest son was placed for adoption, got married to the first person that would give me what I thought was love, and which it wasn't. It was not. Farthest thing from it. But I would have probably gone with anyone who would have given me the attention that I needed at that time. I know I kind of skated over, like, kind of taking back your power. But if you don't have that gift of self-awareness yet, what would you say to people who are kind of lost in that mix right now?
Well, first of all, you're not wrong. Like, no matter where you are in your life, if you're having a hard time or you've chosen a really nasty partner or, you know, you've done some things that you think are mistakes, you're not wrong. Like, you really aren't. And I really encourage people, this isn't about you not necessarily going out and getting a divorce or leaving an abusive relationship. Obviously, we'd like you to not be in those relationships. At the same time, I really would encourage you to start to find, what is it about you that's great about you? Find 3 things a day that you're grateful for about you. Start to turn your focus to you. And the minute you fall in love with yourself, you'll never look to another person to fill that void, because it won't be a void anymore.
Yeah.
The void is always there because you're not giving that energy to yourself, that attention to yourself.
Yeah.
And then anybody in your life would just be a bonus. You could do with them or without them. You wouldn't feel like you had to stay because they feel something.
Mm-hmm.
I think I really liked how you were saying, like you can't ask anybody to change, right? You can't have that expectation that you can change anybody, because that's like changing a cat into a dog. It's not going to work. You're going to get frustrated. The other person's going to get frustrated. But it's so true where people say, like, as soon as you stop looking, it just finds you. You just need to stop stressing. It's kind of like the people who go through like IVF or like all the hard work to try and get pregnant, and then they do, and then they get pregnant naturally like a year later. It's like worry adds so much stress to the body and your mental health that it's kind of hard to see beyond that. But I feel like sometimes you get so absorbed in the other person, wanting to please, wanting to, contribute to their dreams, their wants, their needs, that it's so very easy to put yourself on the back burner. How often do we look at ourselves and, like you say in a chapter, do you want to date you? And what's your answer? If it's no, probably look inward, because you should be like, hell fucking yes, I want to date me. Like, I'm the best boyfriend I've ever had. Like, I think that's so important. But shadow work and looking inward and taking accountability is really hard. How did you work through all that?
Well, I would honestly say, and I acknowledge this a lot, not everybody's wired the way I am. Like, I've always been a seeker. I've always wanted to change things. I've always wanted to make something different. And if things aren't working, then I'm like, okay, how do I change it? That's not everybody. And again, you're not wrong if you're not wired that way. So I really encourage people to just be you. Like, do life the way it works for you. Don't necessarily feel like, oh, she's got it all figured out. She's got a best-selling book, and she's been doing this forever.
Oh, I am.
I don't have it all figured out. I'm still learning. I'm still growing all the time. But start where you are. And if everybody could take one thing away from the book, it would be that you're the one person that you've always been looking for. Mm-hmm. And if you got that, like, everything in your life would change. Mm-hmm. Like, if you made yourself the most important, most valuable product in your own life, your whole life would change.
And think about the joy you would have. I think about this a lot. Junior Hammond from 27th Hour podcast was talking to me about this a while ago, but he's like, since we are our only constants, we need to take care of ourselves better than anyone. You know what I mean? You can't hold on to the negative. You need to push forward. But I lost my train of thought. Junior Hammond.
Push forward. You're the only constant in your life.
Yeah. Anyway, I always do that at least once in the episode. I'll go back while I'm editing. I'm like, this is what you wanted to say. I'm screaming at myself. But anyways, I know that you found that unwanted gift found you at a random point in your life. You are clairvoyant.
I was like, which one?
Yeah. Well, I mean, tell us all, what found you. Oh, and how old were you when this gift happened upon you?
So I was 30 years old. And
30. Can't wait to be 30.
Sarah can't wait. I don't get it.
Between the ages of 28, I can actually give you some information on that.
Yeah.
So between the ages of 28 and 32, you hit your first Saturn return.
Yes.
So your first Saturn return is one of the times where you come into your power. So you really start to own who you are during that time frame.
30.
A lot of people can not miss that. They miss that a little bit because they get involved in relationships and they have babies and then they stop focusing on themselves. So you can still have babies and still find your power, but it's like just know that you're actually seeking that instead of putting everything into your family life, right? So when I turned 30, pretty much overnight, I became a clairvoyant medium, which means I see dead people.
I love that.
But I like how that was a running joke in this, or between you and your past lover. That you started a master class in Reiki, right?
Yep.
And you got into massage therapy, and you kind of fell down that rabbit hole of energy work and everything. But do you think that went hand in hand with your gift, since you were already on that spiritual path? It was kind of like, oop, bloop, we're gonna give this gift to you really quick.
Well, it was actually the Reiki Master Day was the day I came home, and my ex-husband at the time, I asked if I could practice a session on him. And so I was practicing a session on him, and when I was practicing, I went, somebody just walked into the room. But he was enthusiastic, so that was helpful. He was like, great, who is it? Tell me about him. So I explained him. I'm like, he's tall, he's thin, he has sunken eyes. And he's like, oh, I know exactly who that is. That's the ranch hand from when I was a kid. And I was like, awesome. Is he still alive? No, he's dead. Fabulous. I'm a medium.
You're like,
Literally
I love it.
nonchalantly like that. Great. Now I'm this.
I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Wow. And I know
It was a good confirmation, though.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that was awesome.
At least I'm not crazy.
well, and I know the way
I'm
that you
crazy, but-
described it is you don't see them like maimed or bloody, like, or you don't see their death. You just see kind of the spirit step forward depending on who you're around, right?
Yep. Yeah, and they usually come in the form that that person I'm talking to would understand.
Okay.
So one time I was working with a lady and I said, somebody just walked into the room. She said, awesome, who is it? And I said, she's an older lady. She has white hair. Did she wear a wig? And she's like, oh my God, I know exactly who that is. That's my grandmother. No, she didn't wear a wig, but she never had a hair out of place.
Oh.
So me being able to see that kind of detail that
Really
helps
help,
that
yeah.
person really
Chills.
understand and
Yeah.
relate. Yeah.
Something else that was really interesting is I know you said that you have to make boundaries with these said spirits, right? You couldn't, because you didn't want this gift in the beginning. Was
no.
it scary? I can imagine it'd be a little.
I'd be freaked
I
out.
wasn't really scared. I just didn't want to be the crazy lady.
Yeah.
I didn't,
I hate that has that stigma though.
Right. Boundaries.
Yes, boundaries. Thank you.
Oh my god.
It's my
Oh my
ADHD.
goodness.
Well, it's my ADHD and the coffee's getting to me. But if the spirit knows that you can see them, they can approach you at any time, or
They usually when a spirit is like, oh my God, somebody can see me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to think of this. A lot of entities out there are disembodied beings.
Yeah.
They just don't have a physical body. A lot of them don't actually know that they don't have a physical body anymore. So they're trying to talk to their loved ones and going, why can't you hear me or talk to me?
That's kind of like, that'd be like scary for them too, because they're like, what is happening? Like, why
Right.
can't you feel me? Like, I'm trying to talk to you, like, say something, but
or
nothing's happening.
think about how frustrating that would be. Like, why aren't you freaking talking to me?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh,
So a lot of the work that I do is just informing them, like, hey, did you know you don't have a body anymore? You know, sometimes they're here to communicate. They're here to communicate with their loved ones, and then they'll go. Other times they're here to be cleared. So that means they need to know that they can go on to pick another body. And
I was just gonna ask you that. Have you helped anyone move on to the next life?
a A lot actually.
I'm sure that, yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure a lot of people really appreciate that closure, though, getting that message from their loved one from beyond.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I've only had one client, and it was actually a friend of mine who didn't want to, because I always approach it with a really delicate, like, hey, somebody's here. Are you open to hearing from them? Because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
So, and I also in the beginning didn't know that I could shut my sight on and off.
Okay.
So you can turn your sight on and off. So I
How
don't
do you
have
do
to.
that?
It's just like a light switch.
Really?
Yeah. So like mine isn't on right now because it would be really distracting.
Yes.
It'd be like, oh, wow.
I would be like,
I talk about ADHD.
Yeah.
I know, hold on.
Well, and,
What's going on over
this
there?
has been a very great place, but I mean, there have been some mishappenings here, just random.
Elliot.
Yeah, Elliot's in tune with some things, and I don't think that anything's bad, but it's just kind of funny because my keys will end up in a totally different spot, or it's a lot of flickers in the peripherals or whatever, but that's very interesting. I mean, that's probably really good for you, though, because I can't imagine having it turned on all the time.
Yeah, it was a little overwhelming at first.
Do you ever get approached, or have you ever been approached by a spirit that, like, wasn't involved with the session? Like, you just got a visit from somebody?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of that, again, if entities in general know that you can perceive them, they're going to come to you because they're going to be like, hey, can you help me? But I've had people beings come to me and say, would you talk to my grandmother in the store? And I'm like, I'm sorry, there's no way.
You're like,
Like,
that makes me crazy.
Yeah.
Right.
You're
And
like, no.
That's where I draw the line. It's like, and that's where you have to set boundaries. You're like,
Right.
I'm not going to approach somebody I don't know. I'm like, if you want me to talk to her, you bring her into my office.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
you make her find a way to find me.
Like, there's always a
We
way,
gotta
like, you
schedule a therapy
find it.
session for Ghost Grandma.
I know. She's like, I really want to talk to her. I know, honey. I know. Make it happen, and I'd be more than happy.
Yep.
So your journey through, education and spiritual teachings, for those who don't know what Reiki is or energy work, could you kind of describe to them, like, what a session looks like?
So now the sessions, I don't do Reiki anymore. I actually do Access Consciousness. And Access Consciousness, like the first session I recommend for people is called the bars. And it's 32 points on the head. And basically, my mom likes to call it a brain colonic. It just gets rid of all the junk. I mean, we have junk everywhere else, so why would we have it in our heads, right? So we have programs, beliefs, stories, and it's just about getting like it clear, like you would clear off a computer and a hard drive, right? And then you can start to choose the life that you want to choose, because a lot of times we're choosing based on what we're taught or told that we should choose, not what we really want to choose. But you don't know that if you don't get rid of all the junk first.
I'm going to come see you.
I know, I need to, because it's cluttered up there. And I have a hard time, I get overwhelmed easily. I am a very anxious being, so I have a hard time letting things go or just roll off my back. So I actually think that's the one you recommended to me, and I need to make it happen because, woof. Mama needs it. I do.
I mean, yeah.
Your sister went and
Did she
saw
see
you.
you?
Yeah.
Is she coming back to see you?
I don't know. I haven't talked to her.
I hope she does.
Oh, I know.
But did
We all-
you get
we
to
all-
see her afterwards, though?
She seemed very relieved, just calm, which is
She was vacuuming when I saw her today, and I was like rushing in and out. So I'm like, "Hey, here's the baby. I gotta go. Bye."
well. This was a couple weeks ago,
Yeah.
but she's a more of a high strung person, and so just kind of seeing.
I think it's
her,
the Greek in her.
maybe. I don't know.
Probably not.
One of my favorite lines in your book is, "Broken people are never broken." And, you know, I need to make it happen because, woof, mama needs it. I know. I need to.
Yeah.
What did you get to see her afterwards? So she was. She coming back to see you? I don't know. I haven't talked to her.
I don't know. I have a talk to her.
Probably not.
one of my favorite lines in your book is, I think one of the things that I am looking for when I schedule my appointment is just kind of coming to the realization that, we're learning every day. We're constantly changing, and everything happens as it's supposed to. What is meant for us is meant for us. Like, you can't F that up, guys. If it's meant for you, then it will come. Like,
I mean, if it is and you go left and it's supposed to be right, you'll find a right eventually.
yeah, it'll still find you.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know.
You can take the long way, or you can take a shorter way.
Right.
Just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, it's your
I
choice.
always take the long way. And I've said this on the show too. My dad used to joke with me because I was a troubled kid. And he'd be like, there's always 2 doors in front of you. There's the easy door and there's the hard door. What door are you going to choose? I'm like,
hard.
What's behind the hard door? And he's like, that's not the fucking point. You're supposed to say, I'm going to choose the easy door. And I'm like, but that's how I learn. Life is hard. And so, I don't know.
Get your hards out now.
What?
Get
all the hard doors out of the way, and then go in the easy doors after. You're like, I took all the hard doors. I'm done.
Oh, gosh.
So my mom, just the other day, she was like, oh, I kind of stopped doing all this, self-help stuff like that, because she realized she was no longer broken. And I was like, that's really awesome, Mom. That's great. You're not broken.
Mm-hmm.
But life can always get better.
Yes.
It can always get greater.
Yeah.
So you can still take the easy door and have it get greater.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can take the hard door. And, it's a choice. It's not a right or wrong, but it's like, maybe alternate. Maybe I'll do the hard door this time and I'll do the easy door this time. I don't know. Try something different.
It's okay to take an easy door.
It is. You have permission.
I have
I'll give you
permission.
I think
Give yourself permission to take an easy door.
I think that's the biggest thing, though, is like granting yourself the permission to move on, granting yourself the permission to be happy and let things go. I think so often you say this, we hold on to our trauma, we hold on to our drama because we don't know ourselves without it. Mm-hmm. But it's totally up to us whether or not we will allow that to define us or, help us grow. So I think stepping away from this episode, I'll just try and be better at allowing myself the permission.
Do what you want, sister.
I will.
Have fun.
Get done. Take that easy door. Have fun.
Let me ask you one more thing before we wrap it up. I struggle with letting go of people who no longer serve me. And for so many people looking in, they're just like, oh, it's easy. Just stop. Stop talking to them. Stop feeding into that. And it's like, yeah, but some warped part of me deep down doesn't want to. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'm afraid to not have anyone to call. Like, I'm talking about a past lover that I'm trying to let go of, but I don't really get anything out of that relationship anymore, but I still allow him to put the minimum effort in, like a phone call once every 2 days or something. Not necessarily because he loves me or he cares for me, but
he's
he
basically just
wants
like making face.
Well, no, he just wants to maintain a connection so he can come back at any point, and I allow that. I allow that connection to be there. So I guess what I'm asking is, like, how do I get rid of that tiny part of me that doesn't want to let it go? Because it's not good for me anymore.
Well, I know you're probably not going to hear this, and you're going to have to re-listen to this over and over again. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong.
You got it.
You'll do it until you don't. You will choose something until it no longer works for you. If it works for you on some capacity, you will keep choosing it until you don't. But you're not wrong for choosing it.
I needed to hear that. Well, and I mean, your line in here as well is, I didn't think he would be Mr. Right, but he ended up being Mr. Right Now, right?
Yeah.
He's like, well, he's my Mr. Right Now, I guess. I don't know. I need to give my permission to myself to not be so frustrated with it all. You can't force things like that. That's what I'm coming to realize.
And you're judging it somehow. Mm-hmm. So the judgment will kill possibility. It will kill with anything that it could possibly be, because you're making yourself wrong or making the situation wrong for it.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah. So what if you changed, because gratitude grows. So what if you change it to gratitude? Wow, I'm so grateful that I get to talk to this person because it reminds me of what I don't want in a relationship.
Oh, shit.
Damn. It was like, light bulb. Wow. No, I needed to hear that. I did, because, yeah, I feel like I keep going up and down and up and down. And I come from a long line of people who
It's Italian
get
in you.
stuck in cycles, you know what I mean? And I give good advice, but I can't take my own advice. And so I don't know. For some time I just feel like I've been spinning my wheels, but you know, it's not wrong. It's not wrong. So I don't know. If any of you can relate to that, please let me know at hardtalkswithbnh@gmail.com. But also, I know this is kind of a sidebar, but do you ever, what do you say to skeptics when they're like, you're an energy what? Well, I mean, how do you educate someone who is kind of ignorant to that?
Well, the cool thing about like the bars is that we actually have scientific studies, and so we have documentation.
Those people need their scientific studies.
They do.
The Big Bang Theory.
Yep. And, you know, there's still going to be people, we call them fraud patrol, the people that are out there just to seek, just to prove you wrong. But you're not here to prove yourself right. You're here to open a door for somebody and say, here's another possibility, here's another choice. Choose it or don't. It's up to you whether you want to walk through the door or not. It's up to you whether you want to come in for a session or not. I don't care. I mean, I care about you, but I'm not sitting here going, man, I really wish you'd call. I'd be like, no, it's your life.
Right. Like, I'm happy to see you, but I'm not going to dwell on it if you don't.
Exactly. So
how long have you been practicing energy work now?
Well, I've been in the alternative healthcare field for 22 years.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
I feel like it opens so many doors for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe doors I didn't necessarily want at first, but
Yeah.
they turned out okay.
See, I'm excited for 30.
Life's
Life's going to happen.
happening right now.
Nothing's going to happen at 30, but I'm just excited.
Give yourself permission to live right now.
I'm trying.
Well, Venus, can you tell the people where they can find their book if they're interested to read it?
Yeah, Here to Forever, Finally Free to Be Me is on Amazon, paperback or Kindle. It'll be an Audible soon. So.
Oh, Kindle. Oh,
Sarah
if I would have
likes.
known that, I would have had it read by now.
I didn't know it was on Kindle. There you go.
Didn't Kylie buy it for you?
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Kylie bought it from her appointment. So Amazon and Kindle, and then if you want to give us a follow, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Hard Talks with BNH. We are also on Twitter at Hard Talks with B1. If you want to support the show, you can find our Patreon. All the episodes drop early on Wednesdays instead of Fridays, so you can get your dose of Hard Talks early if you like it. But all that being said, you guys, you know, wherever you're listening to this, I hope that, you know, you find that power within yourself. And remember, like, you have a uniqueness and a power within you like nobody else's. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Don't do anything that we wouldn't do. Venus, thank you so much for coming on and sharing some of your story.
Thank you very much.
Your book was beautiful.
So glad you enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I'm going to go buy it on Kindle.
On Kindle.
No.
Bye, Sarah. I'll see you next week.
Peace out.
Till next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.